David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. It's a book that, well, it doesn't hold back. Raw, intense, and it's left a lot of people asking, is this guy for real? Is his, like, extreme approach the only way to unlock your potential? That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, you're right. It's not your typical self-help book, let's put it that
Well,
way. He lays it all out there, Goggins does. Poverty, abuse, the challenges.
you don't have to go far to see that. Like, right from the beginning, his childhood, it's gripping. Yeah. Honestly, it's tough to read at times. This environment, fear and violence in a town called, ironically, Paradise Road.
Anything but paradise. And he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't shy away from it. It makes you wonder how anyone gets out of that kind of environment.
Right.
Normal.
He talks about witnessing, like, his father brutally beating his mother when he was 8. He even mentions this terrifying panic button incident.
This is what Goggins does. He uses these vivid, sometimes disturbing memories to get at a key part of his philosophy, our cookie jar. All our experiences, the good, the bad, they all make up this reservoir that we can draw from to fuel us.
Okay, let's unpack this cookie jar concept a bit. Sounds like it's more than just remembering the good times.
Exactly. He's not saying to just ignore the tough parts. No way. Confront those memories, acknowledge them, those defining moments, and use them. Use them to propel yourself forward. Fuel, right?
So it's almost like he's saying, look, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And his life is kind of a testament to that, isn't it? Escaping that environment, counting pennies with his grandparents to survive.
Absolutely. It's all in the jar. Proof that he can endure hardship and come out, stronger. And that's the key. It's not just remembering. It's how those experiences made you feel, the strength you took from them.
That makes sense, but it's still a far cry from that 8-year-old to, well, setting his sights on becoming a Navy SEAL.
Right. Goggins, he goes after these goals with this almost unbelievable intensity. Like take when he sets his mind on joining the SEALs. Recruiters tell him flat out, you're too heavy. Most people, that's a roadblock.
Knowing Goggins, I'm guessing he didn't take that as a no.
Not at all. Another challenge to conquer. And he's relentless, dropping the weight, the determination. Unbelievable.
Which brings us to, I have to say, maybe one of the more colorful anecdotes in the book, the roach infestation story.
It's pretty memorable. Goggins is struggling with his diet, right? Temptation everywhere. But instead of giving in, well, let's just say he takes action.
Action cures fear to a whole new level.
Exactly. That's critical to his whole philosophy, you see. Goggins, he's not into overthinking, overanalyzing. Just act. Do something. Anything. Get moving.
Breaking inertia, proving you can take action, even if it's small, unconventional.
Precisely. He says the action itself is a form of courage. Those first steps, more powerful than all the planning in the world.
So he conquers this weight loss challenge, gets in incredible shape, and finally earns his place in the, well, grueling world of BUDS training.
It's brutal. It's designed to weed out, to push people to their absolute limits, physically, mentally. Goggins, he's honest about that. The exhaustion, the self-doubt, especially Hell Week.
And even Goggins, he has those moments, right? What am I doing? We all do.
He does. That's what's so important for people to hear. Even someone pushing to those extremes, those inner demons, they're there. We all have doubts. It's about acknowledging them and pushing through.
Right. And those early days of BUDS, those obstacle courses, the sleep deprivation, it breaks some people. He even tells that story about Sean Dobbs, this incredibly fit candidate, and he rings the bell, quits.
And that just highlights, I think, that whole idea that mental resilience, it's just as, if not more important than physical strength. Dobbs was capable physically, but that mental foundation, that unshakable core, Goggins talks about that a lot.
So it's more than just being tough. It's about, what, building that mental toughness.
Right. And Goggins argues it's not something you're born with. You build it. Conscious effort, self-discipline, confronting those emotions, the doubt, the fear, and not letting them control you.
Okay, but how do you do that? How do you build that unshakable foundation?
That's where the calloused mind comes in. He's big on this. Just like you callous your hands, right? Through work, friction, you callous your mind. Through discomfort, mental challenges.
So you're saying intentionally putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, physically and mentally.
Exactly. Exposing yourself to discomfort repeatedly. Cold showers, early mornings, those tasks we avoid. You're building that resilience.
But callousing your mind, it's not about becoming numb,
Right.
detached.
That's such a good question. It's a misconception. He's not advocating for ignoring emotions. It's about managing them, not letting them control you, hold you back.
So how does this calloused mind, how does that play out after BUDS? Because he doesn't exactly go for a quiet life of reflection, does he?
Not exactly. He pushes further. Ultra-endurance
The
events.
Badwater 135, running 135 miles
Ah,
across Death Valley in the peak of summer. It's, well, brutal is an understatement.
even for, experienced ultra marathoners, it's
Yeah.
people who haven't experienced that kind of heat, that level of exertion. They can't even fathom it. And he's battling injuries, dehydration, hallucinations even, he writes about.
It's mind-boggling what's going on in his head, when your body's just screaming at you to stop.
He talks about those moments, yeah, where most people would just give up. That's where he says we tap into what he calls the 40% rule.
Okay, so he's running on fumes,
Mm.
totally at his limit. What's his 40% about?
Goggins believes most people quit when they've only, get this, accessed about 40% of their true capacity. Physically, mentally, he doesn't differentiate. He's saying we have these reserves, the strength and willpower. We don't even know it's there because we give up too soon.
So how do we tap into that other 60%? Push past that point where your mind's saying stop.
That calloused mind we talked about, it goes back to that, training your mind to withstand discomfort, pushing through. He even says, schedule suffering into your day. Look for those opportunities to build resilience.
Scheduling.
Yes.
Suffering. I don't know if that sounds particularly enjoyable.
He's not saying to make yourself miserable, right? It's about intentionally doing things that are outside your comfort zone, yeah. Taking a cold shower, that task you've been avoiding. Pushing yourself in a workout just a bit further.
So it's about proving you're capable of more than you think.
Exactly. And when you hit that wall, that's when you tap into, you guessed it.
The cookie jar. Not just for late night snacks, I'm guessing.
Not for Goggins. Remember those victories we talked about? Big and small. Those are your cookies. Don't just visualize them, write them down. A tangible cookie jar. You can access it literally when things get tough.
A physical reminder of your strength.
Right. Having that, it can be incredibly powerful when you're facing something new, Shifting that mindset from I can't to I've done it before, I can do it again.
And he's not just talking about, physical stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's careers, relationships, personal growth.
Absolutely. That's what's so, I think compelling about it, It's not about running 100 miles. It's about that inner drive. We all have it, he says, that potential, and applying it to, anything, whatever you want to achieve.
He talks about this idea of starting at zero. I'd love to kind of dig into that a bit.
It's fascinating. He talks about how even after accomplishing so much, and this is a guy who, let's face it, has achieved a level of success most people, it's unimaginable, but he still approaches new challenges with this beginner's mindset.
So no matter what you've done, you have to be willing to learn,
Yeah.
to be a student.
Yeah. Even if it means being the least experienced person in the room, he sees it as a way to avoid, complacency, always pushing to grow, to evolve. He talks about challenging successful people to step outside their comfort zones, learn a new skill, or take on a physical challenge that forces them to, start from scratch.
Never let your refrigerator be full. Always be hungry for more.
I love that. Continuous learning,
Yeah.
seeking out those new experiences. It's key.
Okay, so we've got cookie jar, 40% rule, calloused mind, starting at zero. But there's this other side to him, more introspective. We start to see that in the book too. He talks about self-awareness, really confronting your insecurities and understanding where those limitations are and not being defined by them, but using them as fuel.
He's all about that radical self-responsibility, no excuses. For his past, his mistakes, his shortcomings, he owns them completely, uses them as motivation.
Doesn't sugarcoat it either. He talks about some pretty significant setbacks, moments where he doubted himself, wanted to quit, like that attempt to join Delta Force.
It's revealing because you see him confront not just the physical stuff, but the limitations of his own ego. That selection process is grueling even for Goggins.
And then he gets injured. For a lot of people, that's it. Career over.
Right. But he turns it into another battle, this internal struggle, coming to terms with something he can't just outrun.
He felt held back, like the system wasn't recognizing his full potential.
Yeah, there's resentment, questions his purpose, his path. I think we can all relate to that, even if our journeys don't look like his.
Absolutely. And then on top of the injury, another health challenge.
Right.
The second heart surgery.
This is about more than physical recovery now. This is mental adaptation, redefining those limits.
And that's where we see this idea of uncommon amongst uncommon emerge.
Yeah.
I mean, here he is facing a life-altering condition and still pushing forward.
He doesn't downplay the fear either, the uncertainty, the anger. He owns it. It's a side we don't always see. That vulnerability behind the resilience.
We're all human, even those who seem larger than life. So we've got the pushing limits, the overcoming setbacks, But how does he view success itself?
He's wary of letting it, inflate the ego. He talks about that pull-up world record attempt, all that preparation, and it goes wrong.
Doesn't break the record.
Right. But he still gets something valuable out of it.
It's Goggins. What else would he do?
For him, it's humility, adaptability. You can't control everything, but you can control your response. That's the growth right there.
So it's not the goal. It's the lessons the person you become along the way.
Exactly. He even frames it as a responsibility, especially for those who have achieved something, Use your experience, the good and the bad, to help others.
Leaving the ladder down.
Exactly. He doesn't believe in holding back knowledge. True success is about empowering others.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by how he distills these complex experiences into these deceptively simple concepts. The cookie jar, starting at 0, callousing the mind.
He's a master at taking these huge challenges and making them actionable. Gives you the tools, even if they seem a little unorthodox sometimes.
So for someone listening feeling a little overwhelmed by it all, where's a good place to start?
Goggins would say, pick one area where you want to grow,
Yeah.
where you've been holding back. Could be your health, your career, a relationship. Then ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today, even if it's uncomfortable, to move forward?
That's a powerful challenge. A great place to leave it, I think. Thanks for diving in with me today.